Hello and welcome to KS Control Cloud. In this video I'm going to show you how you can use the Data Import tool to import stock items into the system. To do this we need to make sure we're in the System Setup screen, and then we can go ahead and click on Data Import. This will open a wizard which will take us through the steps of importing our stock. First thing we need to do is to create a template and then tell the system what type of data we're intending to import. In this case it's going to be stock. The first screen we can see are all the mandatory fields that need to be in our import file. In other words, this is the bare minimum of information we need to have about our stock items in order to be able to import them. First, we need to know whether or not the item is stock controlled. -1 indicates yes, 0 is no. We need a unique stock code for the item and a short description, and then our level 1 and level 2 stock types, which we'll have talked about in the implementation training. You don't need to have set these stock types up in advance, as they'll be created as part of the import process. We then need the buy price of the items, the sell price, and finally the tax code. In the description you'll see hints on how to fill the fields in and some of the options available. Clicking on the next button will take us to a page of optional but recommended fields that we can add to our template. These include things like supplier details and safe and minimum levels. I'm going to add a supplier code and a supplier reference or part number. The suppliers need to have been set up in the system beforehand because you need to include things like addresses and contacts. So for the purposes of adding a supplier to our items, we only need the supplier code and not necessarily the supplier name as well. Clicking the next button takes us to another page of optional fields we can add to our template. Whilst not necessarily recommended, there are some useful fields here including dimensions, images, and further levels of stock type. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to leave my template as it is, and we can go ahead then and generate it. Clicking the next button will show us a preview of both our mandatory fields and any extra fields we've added to our template. I'm happy with that, so now I can go ahead and click the Generate Template button and we'll see what the template looks like. So here's our template, which has been generated as a Notepad text file. The next thing we need to do is to copy these headings into an Excel spreadsheet so we can populate it with our stock details. I'll do that now, and then we'll come back and see what it looks like. So here's our spreadsheet. We've pasted in the column headings from our Notepad file that we saw just a minute ago, and now we can use this spreadsheet to populate it with the details of the stock items we're wanting to import. I'll go away and do that now, and then we'll come back and show you the completed spreadsheet. So here we have our completed spreadsheet. As you can see, I've populated it with 5 items, although typically you'll be using a lot more. However, I do recommend that you try a small sample as an import first, just to test that the system is okay with the data. A couple of tips. First of all, don't leave a blank line between the heading and the first line of data. Also, when entering prices, just use numbers and not any currency symbols. Don't forget also that the supplier needs to have been set up in KS Control Cloud beforehand, and the supplier code needs to match exactly with what's entered in the company code column. Once we've finished populating our spreadsheet with the stock data, it's then time to move on to the next stage, which is to save this as an importable file. To be able to import our file, we need to save it in an importable form. And we do this by going to File, Save As, and the type of file we need to save it as is a text tab delimited file, which you'll see in the list of file type. We'll now go ahead and save our file. Now we have a file that we can use to import our stock data, and we'll see how to do that next. So this is what our text tab delimited file looks like, and this is the file that we're going to be using to import our data into KS Control Cloud. To do that, we need to go back into the data import screen in KS Control Cloud, so we'll go ahead and do that now. So here we are back in our data import screen, and this time instead of clicking on Create Template, I'm going to click on the option for Import Your Data. I've got my import file on another screen off camera, and I'm going to drag and drop it into the Drop Files to Import zone. We then need to tell the system what type of data it is that we're intending to import. So I'll select stock, and the system's immediately detected that there are 5 lines on the file. I strongly recommend that you leave this option to preview data, which is the default, and that means the system will run a check on the data you're attempting to import. And we'll do this now by clicking Check File. The system's checked the data in the various columns and hasn't found any issues. A typical error you may see here is if you have duplicate stock codes, for example. We'll now do a trial import on the 5 lines of data by clicking on Preview 5 lines. Although nothing's actually been imported yet, the system is telling us that the import will be successful. By clicking Import File, the system will import the file for real. And again, and as we can see, all 5 lines have been imported successfully. By going to the stock item screen and filtering for our description, we can see that our 5 items have been successfully imported and stock records have been created in Case Control Cloud. If we open up one of our stock items, we can see that our prices have been imported successfully also. And by clicking on the Suppliers tab, we can see that the correct supplier has been allocated to the stock item. Thanks for watching.